Good morning. Welcome to the anti-poster as I take a look at day 3 at Goodwood. This is recorded at the start of Wednesday, day 2 at Goodwood at about 9 in the morning. You'll see that I am a solo. Unfortunately, James Robson, my partner in the anti-poster, finds himself somewhere off the coast of Britain fishing in Goodwood week. Good timing, James. So what I'm going to take a look at here is the 3 group races on the Thursday in as a reverse order of priority, well, to me anyway. The Nassau Stakes for fillies and mares, which is the 305, the Gordon Stakes, the Goodwood Derby, if you like, for 12 furlongs for 3-year-old colts, and then just very briefly the Richmond Stakes, the 2-year-old sprint at 155, I think. Right, Nassau first. It's a very small field, select field, but 5 horse races, like we saw at the weekend with the King George, can be crackerjacks if they've got the right horses. And I think we do have many of the right horses here. Leading the market is at 11 to 8 is Whirl, one of the most exciting 3-year-old fillies in training. My idea of the best 3-year-old filly in training. Sorry, Mead Hawk. See the Fire, 7 to 4, one of the best older mares, one of the best mares in training. And then you've got a bit of gap in the betting to Cercene, 15 to 2, winner of the Coronation Stakes at Ascot. So it's another bit of class there. Bedtime Story, the Ballydor number 2, at 8 to 1, who was just touched off in the French Oaks, the Prix Diane. And then the Wild Outsider, Running Lion, who more about later. Very briefly, horse by horse, who I like, who I don't. And I wouldn't say sort of strong suggestion as a betting recommendation, but I'll tell you how I'm playing it. And you can make of that what you will. Well, I kind of come to this race looking at it a week ago thinking, doesn't Whirl just win this? She's the best 3-year-old. 3-year-olds have an amazing record in this since it was opened to the older horses, fillies, and to the mares. Back in 1975, they won more than 2/3 of the runnings. They won 7 of the last 10. And if you've got a good 3-year-old, really ought to be able to see off its olders. And in Whirl, we have an excellent 3-year-old. The form of her last run, the beating of Kalpana over in the Pretty Polly Island, could hardly look better after Kalpana looked like she might win the King George until Calandigan got the better of her in the last half furlong. She ran a cracking derby, just touched off on softer ground by Minnie Hawk over a longer distance than this, so stamina no problem. We'll go for the front, and clearly, as we saw last time, likes to see off all comers, so not necessarily a disadvantage, and being at the front at Goodwood is rarely a bad thing. So she must have a cracking chance. I'm not quite able to play her 11 to 8. We had 7 to 2 a while back, then we got 5 to 2 after Pretty Polly for a bit, and 2 to 1, and suddenly now we've gone all the way down to 11 to 8. I won't have a bet on her at that price, though she's my idea of the most likely winner. See the Fire, I'm split on See the Fire. I sort of had a lazy view that this horse is best at York, where she's put up to absolutely eye-popping performances. One last season in the Strensel, and again this season in a race I forget the name of, but it was one of the most impressive visual displays you'll see. And she's got bits and pieces of all sorts of other good form, and I now see that actually her second in this last year was up there almost with her York runs, not the most recent one, but it was a cracking run, and she wasn't far behind Opera Singer, who was a crack filly last season. So she must have a chance, but again at 7 to 4, being the older mare with not just 1 but 3 good 3-year-olds behind her, I don't see her as a bet. I am really quite excited to see whether they send this one to York for the Jumpmont International in the same colours of an owner who shocked that race, a supposedly unbeatable horse, many moons ago. And with her York, she absolutely loves the names. I think she'd be truly interesting for that. Can't quite get to her at 7 to 4. Must have a chance. Cercene, most exposed of the 3-year-olds in terms of had the most runs. Actually, it's not true. Bedtime Stories also had lots of runs as well. Sorry, but she's had sort of 4 runs this season, Cercene, and looked like, I thought, I was surprised to see her finish 3rd in the Irish 1000. Was that a one-off? No, the answer is it wasn't, because she won the Coronation, beating Zaragana fair and square. So this is an unknown because she's stepping up to 10 furlongs, and she's got an interesting pedigree. We've got Australia, which should lend plenty of stamina, as the sire. And she's out of a sprinter. At first looked, I thought, sort of not dissimilar to sort of Lambourne's, Australia sprinter pedigree, which didn't stop him from, being an out-and-out stayer. But he had Scat Daddy as the dam sire, and bested us at 9 furlongs, whereas this one is out of a sprinter on the dam side. So I don't know, and you should never be too obsessively slavish to pedigrees. She took a big step forward last time, according to Time Form. If she take another step forward, she's bang there. Something about her, to me, perhaps because she's had the most runs this season, I like one at a similar price to this, with potentially more upside, but it's not possible. And one of the reasons why I find 11-8 and 7-4 a bit too short for those at the top of the market. Bedtime Story. This is one that really interests me. We put her up, as you probably recall, for the French Oaks. She drew stall, I don't know, I'm going to say 14 or 15 or something like that at Chantilly, which was a bit of a disaster. Duly lost the horse who I think drew stall 1 at Gazora, or certainly one of the inside stalls. She was dropped out and had to come from the clouds. It was an amazing run. She got to within the haunches of Gazora, but not getting alongside. I think she was the moral winner of that race. And when you've got a bit like I felt Camille Pizarro was one of the moral winners of the French 2000 Guineas, and duly did the business next time out. I think this one could take a big step forward. She's only had 2 runs this season. The first was beaten in the French Guineas when that was her seasonal debut, and Ballydoyle do this with their good ones and their bad ones. They chuck them in any race to start with, or a really good race for the really good ones, in the knowledge that they'll lose, which is quite unusual MO. But she stepped forward hugely on that run and settled better than she had done as a 2-year-old, when she'd had looked fantastic, but pulled and many chances away as the season went on, and then looked dull and finished come Arc weekend. She took a huge step forward on the figures last time. This is her 3rd run. Stepping forward on the 3rd run is an angle I like for the Ballydoyle sort of crack middle distance horses. If she takes another step forward, she's right there. And I just think 8-1 is too big. So I played a bit of 8s, and I might scratch my head and see what I might do with the forecast and things like that. But Bedtime Story seemed to me to be a horse clearly going to run on its merits, unlikely when you've got the number 2 from Ballydoyle with Wayne Lorna on board, might be doing pacemaking duties. I'd be staggered if they did that with Bedtime Story. So I just think she's overpriced, even though she's not the most likely winner. Which finally leaves us with Running Lion, and a complete rogue of a mare. Most of her runs are poor relative to her ability. 2 runs over the last 6 or 7 have been absolutely excellent. 2-length winner of the Duke of Cambridge last season, and also last season 2nd in the Opera. But there's that 2nd run that interests me now. She's pretty unexposed at 10 furlongs. She's been disappointing in a mile a couple of times this year. But one thing I would say about her last run in the July meeting in Newmarket is that's what Running Lion does at the July meeting. She runs dreadfully. In fact, she ran a lot better this year, despite being beaten, 10, 11 lengths. The previous year, she'd beaten about 40 lengths in the July meeting. That in itself means nothing, and she's unreliable, and she probably won't give her run on. But 33-1 is big. this is the kind of territory in which, you know, I find if I find 40 to 1 or something on Betfair, I'll chop a couple of quid, because there's real ability in this horse. She rarely shows it, but when she does, she takes you by surprise and runs well at a big price. You know, she was 20 something to 1 for the Opera, and came within 3/4 of a length of victory on soft ground. I think there is due some rain tomorrow. I'd be surprised. Thundery showers, you can never tell. I'm surprised if it did more than good soft, which I think there's no real problem for most of the field. There's just worth noting that the Sea the Fire hasn't won on soft ground, although wins on fast going. That said, she has run some crackers on soft ground as well, so wouldn't pigeon her toe more on that. But so yeah, there's the Nassau quick view. I do like Bedtime Story 8 to 1. I'm surprised she's 8 to 1. I would expect it to be shorter, but perhaps I'll be wrong about that. Let's see. For all that, Whirl is the most likely winner, and yeah, clear top rated, gets £9 from Sea the Fire. That's I would have thought that'd be enough to see off the balding mare. On to the Gordon Stakes, Goodwood Derby, as I call it. 3-year-olds, often won by Gooden, of a kind that's sort of not ready for the Derby, that comes too soon, sort of later developer. Last 10 years, you've got winners the likes of Jan Bruegel, Highland Reel, Ulysses, Crystal Ocean. You know, really, really smart horses here. This is not just sort of leftovers for horses who are not good enough for the early spring and early summer Tour Furlong highlights for the 3-year-olds. This market interests me. Firstly, I'm very disappointed it's not 8 runners, because I think they'll be each way angles, and there ain't, because with a short price at the head of the market, the bookies don't do the generous thing that sometimes they do with 7-horse races, not in this constellation. The market's headed by Merchant. Let's just get a show of betting up for you. Merchant, for a very exciting horse from the Haggis stable, who everyone is looking forward to seeing out, but he's as short as 5 to 4. Rahib 11 to 2. Galveston 13 to 2, Wimbledon Hawkeye 7s, Sir Dinadan 8s, Windlord 8s, and the Rag 2 soon 66s. I don't have a problem with Merchant being favourite. Perhaps he's the most likely winner. I do have a problem with that price. I just think it's too short. Why is he so short? The answer is it's basically all about not just what he did last time, but who he beat. He won the King George 4th handicap, not by a long way, which in of itself you'd find startling, to have the winner of the George 5th at Royal Ascot 5 to 4 favourite for a race like this. But he was only getting £1 or 2 from Serious Contender, who the Ballard Oil, who Aidan O'Brien later said thought they couldn't get beat. They were so confident about it in that handicap. And that one went on to finish to give Lambourne a real scare in the Irish Derby. So in hindsight, with the collateral form, Merchant looks really, really good. And that kind of explained why his that and the sectional upgrade they've given him for the fast finish in that race, they've given him a time form rating of 127p, which is many pounds clear of a cluster of horses next to the betting. That's rather different from RPRs, which have him lingering much further down on what is achieved, perhaps without taking those two things over account. Anyway, I just think 5 to 4 is too short. He took an awful long time to get on top in that race. Yes, he finished well, so his closing sectionals were fine, but then that's a sort of stiff 12 furlongs. This is Goodwood. It's got undulations. His 2 worst runs of his career have been at Newmarket. This is a new course. I don't want to know at that price, but it could win. I'm like everyone else. I'm excited to see him. I'm not knocking the horse. I'm just having an issue with the price of 5 to 4. Rahib, I played each way about a week ago, when first decks came out and Bet365 were doing 3 places when no one else was, when it was pretty certain that this would attract less than 8 runners. I think there were only 8 at the 5-day stage. Not so appealing at him. Not at all. As an each way bet 2 places. Not least because one horse in particular I didn't think would turn up has turned up. Very consistent. very close third in the Queen's Vase, and notably was beaten a couple of lengths by Merchant the time before, but was giving that one £8. On a absolutely literal interpretation of weight for distances beaten. That actually makes Rahib the better horse on that day. That said, the Merchant is the one clearly improving hand over fist and has moved on from that. So kind of expect Merchant to confirm that form despite the apparent disparity. Unless Rahib, having stepped up to 10 to 14 furlongs to the Queen's Vase, found that a bit too far and wants to come back. He's not uninteresting, but yeah, I can't see an angle for betting him in a 7-horse race. Galveston for Ballydoyle, Ryan Moore on board, is interesting. I wouldn't put anyone off having a swing at this one. He was third in the King Edward VII, the Ascot Derby, if you like, but made all the running there and was sort of forcing the tempo and just faded out of it in the last furlong or so, 3 lengths behind Amilock, who's a good horse, very good horse. We're waiting to see out next. I get the feeling this one could take another step forward potentially. I'm surprised to see him quite as big as he was. I thought he'd be sort of down in the 3-4 to 1 mark. Yeah, interesting. I'm not going to bet him, but I'm tempted to at 13 to 2. Similar price, one I don't want any part of was Wimbledon Hawkeye. Really good 2-year-old, really promising comeback as a 3-year-old in the Craven, but then it's his form figures this year are 2, 5, 3, 4, 3 or something like that, kind of making up the figures, but he hasn't won one basically. And more to the point, all his performances have shown no progression. There's been no steps forward. They're all good, solid runs at a very high level in derbies and all sorts of mixture of distances. Mile, 10 furlongs, 12 furlongs. Second in the Bahrain Trophy last time, beaten a long way. I want no part of him here. I just think there are others more exciting, more likely to take a step forward, and it's not like he's got any clear edge on the figures. Sedinadan, by contrast, is I find really interesting. Only 5th in the Irish Derby, but of course that's a Group 1. And more to the point, it was the way the Irish Derby was run and what he did that makes him really very interesting. Followers of us on our website and on X will know we put up this one at 100 to 1 for the Irish Derby, and he really served it up to Lambourne a couple of furlongs out. He was still in the lead, and he only faded out of it in the last sort of 50 yards. He was third until the last probably 30 yards of the race, and he lost 2 places, which was a bit agonising if you're on at 100 to 1 like James and me and our followers, but that's what it was. But given a different scenario, a different day, I could see him going really well. And I didn't back him each way within the 3 places, which because I wasn't quite sure he'd turn up, thinking we'd have very fast ground at Goodwood. But it stayed good, and this horse doesn't want it good to firm. And if the showers come in particular, and there are thundery showers tomorrow, and there's any GS, it goes up in my estimation. I'm going to bet him anyway, 8 to 1. I think that's too long. I think his form is muddied up by an Irish Derby 5th that was much better than it looked. And he's run at this track perfectly well behind Amilock, who'd be a warm order here, probably vying for favouritism with Merchant. So yeah, I see this Dinadan angle. Windlord is an interesting one. He's had 5 runs this season. 2 have been sacrificed races, if you like, as pacemaker for Field of Gold. But he's won twice over 10 furlongs. He's almost won at Sandown in a Derby trial early in the season, and he did win a listed race last time. It was come slightly all out to do so. This step up to 2 furlongs, who knows? Maybe that could eke out other improvement. In a way, he doesn't appeal because there's not a great deal of progression. But when you bear in mind he's been mucked around with and made run as a pacemaker a couple of times, and now he's freed of those shackles of being someone else's domestique. Yeah, I can see the angle for Dinadan. So sorry, Windlord. I'm not going to play him. Can't play everything. I'm going to play Dinadan. Galveston if he drifts, but Windlord's not uninteresting. And the regular field too soon is a complete throwout. I'd like to try and make cases for outsiders, but we're plateauing last 5 runs on the figures at a level which is between a half stone and a stone off what's needed here. So yeah, I don't see that one at all. That's the Gordon Stakes. Yeah, unfortunate it's a 7-runner race because it would be much more interesting as a betting race if it were 8. But yeah, like everyone else, fascinated to see Merchant taking him on at that price, which to me is just too short, given he's not been to Goodwood and hasn't looked unhappy on undulating courses. And finally, just briefly finish up with the Richmond Stakes. I don't tend not to get too involved with juvenile races until sort of later in the season. Even then, I'm a little careful with them. We've yet to put up, I think, a recommendation for a 2-year-old bet. This race interested me merely because, well, there are 8 runners, or 9, and if even one comes out, it's got each way shape to it. And again, it's just got quite an interesting look to it. We'll look at the betting. It's the 155 tomorrow over 6 furlongs. You've got a Coppool in the colours of, by the way, Mason, who won the July Cup many years ago. Did Summers for favour on absolutely horrific ground at a huge price. Coppool is 10-3. Havana Hurricane, your Windsor Castle winner, 4-1. Maximised for the Appleby Buick team, 5-1. Puerto Rico for Ryan Moore, 8 O'Brien, 8s, Azizam 8s. Egoli for Beckett, Azizam, Carl Burke. Egoli for Ross Ryan and Red Beckett, 9s. Underwriter 10s. Super Soldier again for Carl Burke, 14s. And Chicago Call for Johnny Mertz coming in from Ireland, 40s. What interests me about this race is it's not quite the case, but in a way, I'm almost interested in horses in the reverse order of the betting in which they find themselves. That's not to say Coppool, I find this to pronounce Coppull, can't win. He's third. He's only run twice. He's took a huge step forward, but he was third to Gestart. Oh, how do you pronounce that horse? I used to live in Switzerland. I should know, shouldn't I? In the Coventry, and it was a good time figure. So maybe he takes another step forward. Time form have him top rated. So why shouldn't he? Yeah, just he could. But I think this is quite a deep race with lots of angles. I didn't really want to take one at 10 as short as 10-3. But I appreciate his claims. Havana Hurricane is what I'm actually quite against. We've now got 4 runs into this horse. Won the Windsor Castle, which was a very good run, but then slightly a backward step on the time 4 figures. And Havana Hurricane was getting a lot of weight in this. I think it was the Weatherby's Super Sprint, where you get weight according to what you cost at the sales. And with the weight he got, I thought he'd go and win that. Now, admittedly, lost to a filly who had less weight than he did, even allowing for the sex allowance of £3. But I thought it was slightly a backward step. Suggested the Windsor Castle, maybe not such a good race. Windsor Castle, incidentally, both Sands of Spain and Dickensian, who are in that Windsor Castle, they run today at time recording Wednesday. I think they're in the. I can't remember what race it is. It's a sprint race for 2-year-olds on the Wednesday. If those two run really well, that's worth noting as a form boost for that Windsor Castle. Just an interesting piece of collateral form, which I don't have, of course, because I'm recording this Wednesday morning. But no, I didn't want Havana Hurricane at 4s. Maximised, a bit more interesting. Maximised looked good on debut, then looked very good the next time when winning the Woodcott. Then goes to the July Stakes as favourite, but that's a race that sort of fell apart. It fell apart in a good way in terms of what the form means, because Zavateri, who won it, went and took the vintage yesterday with Do or Do Not, who was second in that race at Newmarket with Maximised, having finished third in the vintage. So it's not like he was in a bad race, but those up the front were. Fell in a hole. They went much too fast. Comical Something for Balding and Brussels were beating each other up. Maximised got involved early. I kind of feel he's better than that. It did too much there. It could bounce back. So Maximised, I kind of get. The worry is as an each way angle is that well, what is he just not as good? So if he wasn't, he was fourth or fifth or whatever he was there, if he's fourth or fifth again, okay, you've done twice your money. But I couldn't help feeling he would bounce back a bit from that. So Maximise very interesting. Cheap pieces for the first time, which you could say is a bit of a concern. They're worried about his attitude. Anyway, interesting. I'm not sure I'll actually play him, but I think he's interesting. Puerto Rico, I did have a bit when they priced it up, so I just thought 10-1 was too big. He's now 8. So I played him each way. He's got a 108p time form rating figure, which is not far off the best of these. Will presumably keep progressing. 3 races. He was second, beaten in quite a hefty way, 5 lengths, by True Love, who looks like being the top filly, to my eyes, of the 2-year-old division. Really exciting. So that may have been no disgrace. Plus, he may step forward. I just didn't think these were particularly, these are not deeper waters than taking on True Love. And I just thought for the 1 sent over by Moore and O'Brien to be 10-1 seemed too big. But they don't always send their best to Goodwood. There was a horse yesterday, Dorset, who I was absolutely astonished was favourite. He had done nothing to deserve favouritism on what he'd achieved. It was just the sort of talking Ballet Doyle horse factor. Clearly, there's less talk behind this one because unlike Dorset, it was sort of 7-4 or something. This fella started off at 10-1, is still 8-1 now, but I still think that's quite large. Definitely a reasonable each way bet. Azizam next in the betting. Carl Burke, he was 3rd in the Windsor Castle. Only had a couple of runs, so could step forward again. Not impossible. Kind of against him. I see him as the Carl Burke second string as this race, despite the fact that he's half the price of the betting of the other one. We'll come to in a minute. So this is one I didn't go for on the rating. He's got the most to find, but he's unexposed. Not impossible. Egoli is the other one I do like. So we've got 3 runs, and all we've got is 2 maidens and a novice. But he won the second maiden well, and he won the novice last time out very well at Newbury by a couple of lengths, and he had a weight penalty. He's out quickly, 11-12 days, which some people might not like as an angle, but it's only a sprint. And I think the stable's view is that he's good enough to be out quickly. So yeah, this one I find is really quite interesting. I had an anti-post on him. Maybe he was 11s or something. He's only 9s now. I still think that's value. I think Egoli is an interesting horse. Underwriter, no. Looked great on debut. Was liked by many people for the commentary on that. Ran an absolute shocker. 3rd went back to Ayr, where he'd won so well on debut. Won again pretty well. It was a nothing race with a nothing time. On figures, he's got to step forward again. So he's one I'm throwing out. No doubt that'll come back to bite me. And then 8th in the betting at 9. You have Super Soldier at 14s. This one really interests me. This is what I'm watching the thunderstorms for, because if we get any S in the going after tomorrow's rain, and we may not, because we had a little bit of drizzle yesterday and it's just kept the ground good, and thunderstorms could be hit and miss. We don't know what's going to happen. This one I think has a real chance if there's S in the going. I also think he's the Carl Burke stable number 1, despite being twice the price of Azizam, who's got Clifford Lee on board. And he was perhaps an unlucky second in the Robert Papin, which is a Group 2 Gentil last weekend. I think it was last weekend or the weekend before. So short turnaround. No, perhaps it's 10 days, 11 days. Carbo's always been clear this horse wants off ground, and ran badly 2 runs back. Might have been a Royal Ascot, sorry, I'm having a scene on memory, can't remember where he was, but it didn't run well, but it was good to firm. And the question is whether he gets the dig he needs. I think if it was good to firm here, he wouldn't be run, he'd be pulled out, be a non-runner. So in a sense, I don't think you have to worry about going good to firm, because I think he won't run it as good to firm. But as I say, if there's enough juice in the ground, it was called soft at Chantilly. That's only good to soft. If there's GS in places, I think he's a massive player. I mean, he is almost close to top rated on that performance. And some people throw out these sort of small French races as not being equivalent form to a sort of proper well-run English contest. But I think that's a bit of a lazy way of thinking. Green Sense, who won the Chantilly race, the Papa, was a highly regarded colt of Joseph O'Brien's. So I can see Super Soldier really running well if there's enough dig. And I just thought 14 was much too big. And I was about to say on the rag, 40-1 Chicago Call you can throw out. I looked at the ratings, and yes, he's the lowest rated of these by far. He's got a stone or more to find. But he's only had 2 runs, and he improved hugely from a nothing maiden run to last time out in Ireland, winning easily. Johnny Murta, he's setting our horse a long way from Johnny Murta's yard, where it actually changed trains in Ireland, I don't know, to Goodwood. I don't think Murta does this kind of thing for fun, unless the owner want to run it, which seems a bit unlikely. So 40-1, yeah, okay, why not? I'm having a tiny each way on Chicago. Cool. These are not betting recommendations, but in terms of what I like, the horses I like most are Puerto Rico, Egoli, Super Soldier, and Chicago Call, and none of those are the first 3 in the betting. So we'll have a couple of the each ways. We've already got 1. Might even add 2 more at small stakes to have a bit of fun with a 2-year-old race that I usually don't go wild on. But I felt anything could win, so I'd rather have a price. So after half an hour of me waffling on, those are 3 group races for Goodwood Day 3. You won't have me putting any recommendations in for the handicaps. You know me too well for that by now. Thanks for joining, and perhaps we'll come back to you for Day 4. I'll chat to James when his boat docks from his latest fishing trip. Okay, good luck wherever you're playing today. If I can end the video.